Dapat po munang alamin or matukoy ang pangunahing problema ng bansa upang mapagtuunan ng pansin at mabigyan ng solusyon.
We should have a specific goals, do research, and make a policy that is fair for everyone.
Walang problema sa pulisiya. Iayos lang ang pagpapatupad.
Bago patubas ang batas, pag-aralan muna gusto ng government.
Two things, clarity and execution. Both, you need the communication and monitoring. As simple as that.
Mandato ng Philippine Institute for Development Studies o PIDS na gumawa ng mga pag-aaral at pananaliksik ng mga pulisiya at programa ng pamahalaan at magbigay ng rekomendasyon sa mga mambabatas sa pagbabalangkas ng mga pulisiyang makakatulong sa ating bansa. Sinusulong ng aming ahensya ang evidence-based policy making upang bigyan din ng kahalagahan ng pulisiya na batay sa datos at policy research na sumusuri sa tunay na kalagayan ng ating mga komunidad. Napakahalaga ng policy research, lalo na sa mga panahong dumadaan sa krisis ang ating bansa.
Kapag pulisiya ay pinag-aralan, susulong ang bayan!
Have you heard about the twin transition approach or the simultaneous pursuit of greening and digitalization? Why is it important for the Philippines and how can we do it? This September, learn about the twin transition through the celebration of the 21st Development Policy Research Month or DPRM, which carries the theme Going Green and Digital for a More Sustainable, Inclusive and Prosperous Future for All. We will have evidence-based discussions tackling the interconnected concepts of digital transformation and green transition, and how Filipinos can leverage both to build back better and stronger after the COVID-19 pandemic and meet the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. For more information, head on over to pids.gov.ph or the DPRM website at dprm.pids.gov.ph. You may also follow us on Facebook and Twitter for updates on the DPRM and how you can join the conversation. See you there! Policies can either make or break a country and its people. Hence, designing good policies is important. Policies should be thoroughly studied before they are implemented. Also, policies should be evaluated to determine if they were implemented as intended and if their objectives were achieved. This is where policy research comes in. Through Malacanang Proclamation 247 released in 2002, the government declared September as the Development Policy Research Month or DPRM to promote national awareness of the importance of policy research in formulating evidence-based policies, plans, and programs. The DPRM also aims to cultivate a strong culture of research and the use of data and evidence among decision makers and raise the public's literacy of socio-economic issues. The proclamation also designated the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS, to oversee and coordinate all activities related to the DPRM. Various activities such as policy forums, press conferences, social media promotion, and the annual Public Policy Conference are organized by the PIDS and its partners to celebrate the DPRM. Each year, the DPRM focuses on a particular theme, which is usually a current or an emerging development issue of national significance. In recent years, the DPRM has centered on issues about risk reduction and management, decentralization, the fourth industrial revolution, the new globalization, the reforms to address the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the need to make social justice the front and center of the post-pandemic recovery plan. For 2023, the 21st DPRM focuses on the theme Going Green and Digital for a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future for all, to underscore the importance of simultaneously pursuing the twin transition, or the interconnected processes of digital transformation and green transition, as the way forward for the Philippines to build back better and stronger after the COVID-19 pandemic and achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and Ambition Natin 2040. Digitalization is the use of digital technologies to improve processes and deliver better services. On the other hand, green transition is the shift to economically sustainable growth that relies on low-carbon solutions and promotes circular economy and environmental conservation. Both processes are indispensable to achieving sustainable and inclusive development. However, the twin transition is a complex process that has a big impact on society. It is important to understand why it is necessary and how we can take part in it, and how groups adversely affected in the transition process may be protected and assisted. The evidence-based discussions during the DPRM will show how the Philippines can pursue the twin transition strategically and in a just and equitable way for everyone, leaving no one behind. Learn about the twin transition and how it can be achieved. Join the conversation and be part of shaping our country's future. Together, let us build a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous Philippines. For more information about the DPRM and how to participate, visit dprm.pids.gov.ph.
Dapat po munang alamin or matukoy ang pangunahing problema ng bansa upang mapagtuunan ng pansin at mabigyan ng solusyon.
We should have specific goals, do research, and make a policy that is fair for everyone.
Walang problema sa pulisiya. Iayos lang ang pagpapatupad.
Bago patubas ang batas, pag-aralan muna gusto ng government.
Two things, clarity and execution. Both, you need the communication and monitoring. As simple as that.
Mandato ng Philippine Institute for Development Studies o PIDS na gumawa ng mga pag-aaral at pananaliksik ng mga pulisiya at programa ng pamahalaan at magbigay ng rekomendasyon sa mga mambabatas sa pagbabalangkas ng mga pulisiyang makakatulong sa ating bansa. Sinusulong ng aming ahensya ang evidence-based policy making upang bigyan diin ang kahalagahan ng pulisiya na batay sa datos at policy research na sumusuri sa tunay na kalagayan ng ating mga komunidad. Napakahalaga ng policy research, lalo na sa mga panahong dumadaan sa krisis ang ating bansa.
Kapag pulisiya ay pinag-aralan, susulong ang bayan.
Have you heard about the twin transition approach or the simultaneous pursuit of greening and digitalization? Why is it important for the Philippines and how can we do it? This September, learn about the twin transition through the celebration of the 21st Development Policy Research Month or DPRM, which carries the theme Going Green and Digital for a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future for all. we will have evidence-based discussions tackling the interconnected concepts of digital transformation and green transition, and how Filipinos can leverage both to build back better and stronger after the COVID-19 pandemic and meet the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. For more information, head on over to pids.gov.ph or the DPRM website at dprm.pids.gov.ph. You may also follow us on Facebook and Twitter for updates on the DPRM and how you can join the conversation. See you there! Policies can either make or break a country and its people. Hence, designing good policies is important. Policies should be thoroughly studied before they are implemented. Also, policies should be evaluated to determine if they were implemented as intended and if their objectives were achieved. This is where policy research comes in. Through Malacanang Proclamation 247 released in 2002, the government declared September as the Development Policy Research Month, or DPRM, to promote national awareness of the importance of policy research in formulating evidence-based policies, plans, and programs. The DPRM also aims to cultivate a strong culture of research and the use of data and evidence among decision makers and raise the public's literacy of socio-economic issues. The proclamation also designated the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS, to oversee and coordinate all activities related to the DPRM. Various activities such as policy forums, press conferences, social media promotion, and the annual Public Policy Conference are organized by the PIDS and its partners to celebrate the DPRM. Each year, the DPRM focuses on a particular theme, which is usually a current or an emerging development issue of national significance. In recent years, the DPRM has centered on issues about risk reduction and management, decentralization, the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the new globalization, the reforms to address the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the need to make social justice the front and center of the post-pandemic recovery plan. For 2023, the 21st DPRM focuses on the theme Going Green and Digital for a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future for all, to underscore the importance of simultaneously pursuing the twin transition, or the interconnected processes of digital transformation and green transition, as the way forward for the Philippines to build back better and stronger after the COVID-19 pandemic and achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and Ambition Natin 2040. Digitalization is the use of digital technologies to improve processes and deliver better services. On the other hand, green transition is the shift to economically sustainable growth that relies on low-carbon solutions and promotes circular economy and environmental conservation. Both processes are indispensable to achieving sustainable and inclusive development. However, the twin transition is a complex process that has a big impact on society. It is important to understand why it is necessary and how we can take part in it, and how groups adversely affected in the transition process may be protected and assisted. The evidence-based discussions during the DPRM will show how the Philippines can pursue the twin transition strategically and in a just and equitable way for everyone, leaving no one behind. Learn about the twin transition and how it can be achieved. Join the conversation and be part of shaping our country's future. Together, let us build a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous Philippines. For more information about the DPRM and how to participate, visit dprm.pids.gov.ph.
Hey everyone, isang magandang umaga sa ating lahat and welcome to the 21st Development Policy Research Month press conference, which officially heralds the start of our month-long celebration. I am Sheila Siar and I will be your host and moderator. We have with us today the key operators of the PIDS, headed by Dr. Aniceto Engr, representatives of the DPRM AVP steering committee, are distinguished panel of speakers from the national government, local government, and the private sector, and our friends from the media. We are very glad that all of you, our Facebook live stream viewers, could join us today. To officially open our event, I call on Dr. Aniceto Orbeta, the president of PIDS.
Morning, distinguished partners, guests, friends from the media, and those watching us live online. Executive Director Merwin Salazar, Director Serses Nitafan of the Senate Economic Planning Office, Assistant Secretary Philip Varilla, Plans and Policy Management Coordination and Advocacy Division, OIC Alberto Salvador Jr., and Information Strategic Communications Director Aris Joseph Plentina, and of the Department of Information and Communications and Technology. I am honored to speak before you today as we kick off the month-long celebration of the 21st Development Policy Research Month, or DPRM, led by the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS. In collaboration with an interagency steering committee, the PIDS celebrates DPRM every September to promote policy research and its importance to our policymakers, government leaders, and the public for evidence-based policymaking and planning. This celebration is pursuant to Malacanang Proclamation 247 issued in 2022. This September 2023, we celebrate DPRM with renewed hope as we recover from the devastating impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The past 3 years have been a dark period worldwide, and we can still feel the lingering effects of the pandemic. According to the World Bank Poverty and Shared Prosperity to 2022 report, 2020 saw the largest global poverty setback in decades. By 2030, around 600 million people are projected to live in extreme poverty. As if COVID-19 is not enough, we must also deal with the worsening climate change that poses unavoidable anticipated damage. The World Risk Report 2022 ranked the Philippines as the most disaster-prone country in the world based on natural hazards. Existing political conditions and socioeconomic structures that increase people's vulnerability make it harder for the poor people and marginalized sectors to recover. Together, COVID-19 and climate change create the urgency for us to act. Never before had policy research been more critical in crafting evidence-based plans, policies, and programs to address current and emerging development issues. Today, as we celebrate the 21st DPRM, we shall discuss powerful strategy, the twin transition, or the two interconnected and vital shifts to go green and digital, which we believe best addresses the impact of the pandemic and climate change. This year's DPRM theme, Going Green and Digital for a More Sustainable, Inclusive, and Prosperous Future for All, or in Tagalog, maging makakalikasan at digital para sa higit na matatag, inklusibo at masaganang kinabukasan para sa lahat. The theme highlights the twin transition as a way forward for the Philippines to realize a sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future for all. The concepts of embracing sustainability and adapting digital technologies have previously been promoted independently. However, at PIDS, we believe that the simultaneous pursuit of both green and digital transformation is imperative in light of present circumstances and obstacles. Today, we will hear from our panelists what we stand to gain from implementing the twin transition and how to make green and digital possible. I thank the panelists, our panelists, Dr. Francis Mark Quimba, Senior Research Fellow at PIDS, Mr. Earl Valencia, representative of the business sector, the National Innovation Council, and co-founder of Plentina, for their insights, which we will hear soon. I also wish to express my sincerest appreciation to our DPRM Steering Committee members for collaborating with us on this important celebration. To our partners, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the National Economic and Development Authority, Department of Interior and Local Government, Civil Service Commission, the Philippine Information Agency, Philippine Presidential Management Staff, the Department of Budget and Management, Senate Economic Planning Office, and the Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department. Thank you so much for your continued support in the yearly DPRM. We are also grateful to the Department of the Environment and Natural Resources, the Department of Information and Communications Technology, and the UST Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, Emerging Technology, Research and Development for accepting our invitation to be part of the DPRM Steering Committee this year. Let me also thank our friends from the media for their support. We consider you a critical partner of PIDS in knowledge dissemination and advocacy. In closing, I'd like to invite you to watch this video which discusses the theme of this year's DPRM. Thank you very much.
In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and worsening socioeconomic inequalities, our world is faced with a pressing challenge. What should we do to preserve our planet while realizing a sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future for all? As more intense weather phenomena and disasters occur more frequently, pushing the poor and marginalized sectors deeper into poverty, countries are responding to the challenge of climate change. They are aiming to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and cap the global average temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. There is also a growing realization of the need to transition to a green economy by shifting to smarter production and consumption systems. Meanwhile, the adoption of digital technologies has progressed rapidly, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Public and private sectors are increasingly using advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, sensors, GPS, big data, Internet of Things, and blockchain to deliver better service, improve productivity, and expand trade. In short, the world is experiencing a twin transition or dual transformation, a dynamic shift encompassing two pivotal and concurrent processes: green transition and rapid digitalization. This year, the Philippine Institute for Development Studies and its partners in the Development Policy Research Month underscore the twin transition as the way forward for the Philippines to achieve sustainable and inclusive development. Digital transformation and the shift to sustainable practices are both essential if we want to build a better future for ourselves and the planet. Digitalization and green transition are directly linked to each other. Both are important in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, to realize a green planet without poverty, where everyone lives in peace and prosperity. The Philippine Development Plan, or PDP 2023 to 2028, recognizes the environmental forces and digital trends shaping the future of the Philippines. To this end, it adopted the underlying theme of transformation. The PDP has identified strategies and technologies that can facilitate the twin transition. These include promoting the use of advanced technologies in the production sectors, such as location-specific, sensor-based, and precision agriculture, adoption of green features in housing and community design, and development and use of green technologies for waste recovery and recycling. Implementing the twin transition requires a whole-of-society approach. The government, as a facilitator and enabler, should set the right policies and programs that provide the right environment for digital transformation and green transition. Micro, small, and medium enterprises need support to adapt quickly and transition with less cost and disruption. Incentives can be provided to businesses adopting sustainable practices, tax credits for investing in renewable energy production and e-vehicle manufacture, and grants for small business innovations. The government should closely monitor the implementation of environment-related laws, such as the Extended Producer Responsibility Act, the Green Jobs Act, and the Renewable Energy Act, and the Philippines' nationally determined contributions to greenhouse gas emissions reduction and avoidance. The full implementation of the Philippine Innovation Act through the combined effort of the government and the private sector is a big push in the right direction, as green and digital innovations can help accelerate the twin transition. Because the twin transition will have winners and losers, it is crucial to strengthen our social protection systems to cushion the transition's impact on affected groups and sectors. On the other hand, businesses should see the twin transition as an opportunity to increase their profitability and enhance their sustainability and environmental responsibility. They can leverage digital technologies to transition to circular and environment-friendly business models. They can also adopt the Green Human Resource Management, which refers to human resource policies and practices that support the broader environmental agenda on natural resource protection. Other relevant policies and practices include reducing carbon footprint by using less paper, adopting shared workspaces, carpooling, reducing unnecessary travel, telecommuting, and video conferencing. Meanwhile, academic and training institutions have an important role in preparing learners and reskilling and upskilling workers. Green and digital skills should be incorporated into the education and training curriculum, emphasizing their practical application in the digital and green sectors. It is also essential for teachers to have the right skills to teach students about sustainability, such as the science of climate change and environmental degradation, and applying the right solutions in the classroom and in their homes and communities. Strengthening civic education about digital citizenship and environmental responsibility is of technology, and we have a duty to protect the environment. The government, academe, business sector, and civil society should work together in studying the risks and opportunities of advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, their ethical and social implications, how to address these, and how to harness them for the twin transition and overall socio-economic inclusive development. The twin transition is a complex process that has a big impact on society. We need to understand why it is necessary, how we can take part in it, and how groups adversely affected in the transition process may be protected and assisted.
In the Annual Public Policy Conference, or APPC, the main activity of the Development Policy Research Month, or DPRM, we will tackle the importance of simultaneously pursuing digital transformation and green transition to have a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future. Going green and digital, or implementing the twin transition, is the way to build back better and stronger after the COVID-19 pandemic and achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. The discussions during the PPC will allow us to see how the Philippines and the rest of the world can pursue the twin transition strategically and in a just and equitable way for everyone, leaving no one behind.
The twin transition is the way forward for the Philippines. Getting it right is crucial. By managing it effectively, we can create a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future for the Philippines. For details about this year's DPRM celebration, including the annual Public Policy Conference, visit the PIDS and DPRM websites and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
The 2023 DPRM theme on the twin transition, or the interrelated concepts of green and digital transformation, was coined by a group of PIDS research fellows, namely Drs. Ramonet Serafica, Connie Dakuikoy, and Francis Quimba. And with us today is Dr. Francis Quimba to further walk us through on the concept of the twin transition and its importance. Dr. Francis Quimba is a senior research fellow at PIDS and the director of the Philippine ATEC Study Center Network. He has worked on a number of research topics, including agriculture, trade, and rural development. His current research interest is in the innovation activity of local firms, and he has participated in roundtable discussions on issues on trade, industrial development, innovation, and e-commerce. He obtained his master's in international development from the International University of Japan and another MA and his PhD in development economics from the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies in Tokyo, Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Francis Quimba.
Thank you, Dr. Shar. And good morning, everyone. In behalf of the authors, I'm pleased to present the paper or the concept note on the green and digital transitions, or the twin transition. So let me just talk about each factor separately. So faced with the issues related to climate change and disaster resilience, countries have agreed to collectively respond to the challenge of climate change. In the 2021 Glasgow Climate Pact, more commonly referred to as the COP26, countries have dedicated the 2020 to 2030 as a decade for climate action and support, with the goal of reducing emissions and capping the global average temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. As countries have adopted their national policies with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, they have also engaged in a gradual transition to green economies. As part of the green transition, countries are also exploring the shift to smarter production and consumption systems. green energy projects have also multiplied as the benefit-cost ratio for renewable energy rises. However, developing countries still need to figure out how to reconcile the preservation of markets and jobs with their commitment to the international agreements, such as the SDGs, the Paris Agreement 2015, and the COP26. Despite the growing impact of climate change, there is still insufficient support on the part of governments and businesses for the necessary energy transition. Over 80% of global energy production is still based on coal, oil, and gas. And this is in 2018, according to UNESCO 2022. At the same time, so we've seen there's a transition from green transition. There's also rapid digitalization, as you've seen in the video. So in parallel to the green transition, countries have worked towards the adoption of digital technology, such as the digitalization of services and payment systems, to improve service delivery, support businesses, and combat corruption and tax evasion. Countries have implemented policies fostering the emergence of a digital economy, including smart manufacturing, fintech, e-health services like telemedicine, and smart agriculture. The world has begun adopting advanced digital technologies such as artificial intelligence, robotics, and the Internet of Things and blockchain technology, which are converging with nanotechnology, biotechnology, and cognitive sciences to form the bedrock of the fourth industrial revolution. Indeed, countries of all income levels are engaged in this dual transformation, the green transition and digitalization. For those countries bearing the brunt of climate change, like our country, science, technology, and innovation offer hope of greater resilience by presenting new ways to adapt and reduce the negative impacts of destructive storms, fires, droughts, and other calamities. Okay, so what is this dual transformation? The dual transformation or twin transition, and a number of studies have already used this definition or this terminology, refers to the mutually interdependent transformations of digitalization and adoption of green processes occurring simultaneously across countries. The digital transformation of the economy and society and the shift to a sustainable model of production should be viewed as closely intertwined and simultaneous. Digital innovations are indispensable enablers of green transition. A number of cases have been documented that provide examples of how digital technologies enable the transition of businesses and economies. Advanced technologies such as sensors or satellite data, which enable the gathering and reporting of precise information on tree species and biodiversity counts, have been utilized by FAO and World Bank to monitor the implementation of environmental standards in illegal fishing and logging. A study by Mangina et al. In 2020 illustrate the importance of GPS tracking systems, Internet of Things, sensors in analyzing global supply chains data and identifying areas for reducing emissions. Gigler in 2020 explained how blockchain can be a powerful tool to improve the transparency, accountability, and traceability of greenhouse gas emissions. Blockchain can be catalyzed through smart contracts to better calculate, track, and report on the carbon footprint of processes across value chains. Another important technology that illustrates the dual transformation is the use of artificial intelligence in oil, gas, and electricity industries. Machine learning systems can improve the ability to map and understand the size and value of underground deposits of oil and gas, making it easier to tap these resources at lower cost. AI-assisted training for the design and operation of wind solar farms can make these systems more efficient in how they absorb capital and generate electricity. Meanwhile, the greening of digital technologies has become a critical success factor for digital transformation and upgrading. As the global value chains evolve and the governance of lead firms shift to the use of more sustainable production processes, all stakeholders along the value chain would be forced to acquiesce to the change in policy and ensure technologies adopted support environmental goals. Only firms with the existing capability to adopt technology and innovate processes can be successful in maintaining participation in the global value chains. Katak et al. In 2015 cites the case of an apparel industry in Sri Lanka in which lead firms following environmental standards like ISO 14001 and LEED were able to induce green transition to the suppliers engaged in the production process. The next two slides show how the SDGs are related to the dual transformation. The Sustainable Development Goals are directly linked to the digital and green transition as these are inevitable and to achieve sustainable development. Specific SDGs may be directly or indirectly related to the dual transition, while some SDGs are related to both digital transformation and green transition. Allow me to highlight SDG 2 and 8 as examples of SDGs that are directly related to both. For example, SDG 2, Zero Hunger, as sustainable agriculture and food production are critical to achieving zero hunger, this SDG is directly related to the clean green transition and digitalization through strategies related to the optimization of food production and distribution, as well as the reduction of food waste. For SDG 8, promotion of sustainable economic growth is related to the development of green industries and the promotion of decent and green jobs. Digital technologies may support the development of new industries and business models. So for SDG, this slide shows critical SDGs like SDG 12 to 15, which are again closely related to the green transition and are still also affected by digitalization. I won't go through all of them, but yeah, you may see it through the slides. Recognizing the emerging global and regional trends. Pushing the Philippines towards this dual transformation, the Philippine Development Plan has identified strategies related to the dual transformation. In the 2023 to 2028 PDP, as you've seen in the video, and the PDP recognizes the environmental forces and digital trends as factors shaping the future of the Philippines. To this end, the underlying theme of transformation has been adopted by the plan. Let me just go through the specific strategies identified in the PDP. For example, for the production sectors, farms utilizing modern technologies such as location-specific, sensor-based, and precision agriculture, smart greenhouses, and controlled environment and cultural techniques will be promoted. Farmers are also encouraged to use mobile platforms and channels for marketing, payment, and product delivery of agricultural and fish products. Businesses will also be co-located with other industries, service enterprises, and academic institutions to promote the adoption of Industry 4.0 technologies. Businesses will also be encouraged to develop green technologies and establish facilities for waste recovery, reuse, and recycling. Another set of strategies are related to the communities. Communities are also encouraged to adapt to the dual transformation. One strategy is the adoption of green features in housing and community design, such as renewable energy, green roofs, rainwater harvesting systems, rain gardens, permeable pavement, green construction materials, nature-based storm drainage systems, gray water recycling system, and energy-efficient windows, with reference to the Green Building Code. Construction companies are also encouraged to conduct R&D to adopt green architecture and additive manufacturing, which would reduce production costs. For labor and employment, strategies related to labor and employment include the government creating database of green jobs, implementing the Green Jobs Human Resource Development Plan, and intensifying the integration and mainstreaming of green competencies in Tibet and education programs. Aside from the PDP, other government documents have also acknowledged the role of technology in the green transition. The foresight document entitled Pagtanaw 2050 by the National Academy of Science and Technology, or NAST 2021, listed a number of specific technologies for the environment and climate change operational area. Many other technologies were identified in that document related to other operational areas. There are still a few questions that need to be answered to ensure that this dual transformation supports the achievement of a sustainable future in the Philippines. For example, what would be the impact to local industries? The twin green and digital transformations are increasingly seen as to complement each other, and digital technologies such as AI, cloud computing, and IoT are expected to help the economy become greener. Digital technologies are expected to open green windows of opportunities, such as improving green efficiency, reducing the carbon footprint of current production and consumption modes, facilitating the introduction of new green technologies and eco products, enhancing the diffusion of business models based on circular economy. At the same time, digital technologies may also pose serious environmental threats, which span from the use of rare materials in their production to high energy consumption in their utilization. For developing countries, the dual transformation of green transition and digitalization involves accelerating a process of industrialization that would normally take decades. So industries are now undergoing these two transformations in parallel. Digitalization entails businesses using digital technology, such as data, cloud, artificial intelligence, and others, for all aspects of the business process, from product development, production, operation, sales, and even materials recovery. Meanwhile, green transition entails designing, building, and scaling products and operations so that these become more efficient, more sustainable, and more resilient. Sustainable environmental footprint also becomes the resource use efficiency, but also sustainable design or circular practices not only reduce a product's environmental footprint, but also improves the resource use efficiency, making manufacturers more resilient to supply chain shocks. The intersection of digitalization and green transition is resulting in opportunities for servicification as well. For example, e-invoicing and two-way communication platforms have helped tailoring services to adapt to specific needs of customers and change behavior towards greater conservation. In terms of work, nations across the globe are facing enormous challenges to adapt and anticipate the skills needed by labor markets due to the green transition and digital transformation. New technologies and innovations in green energy and sustainable practices require not only the development of new skills and updating of new ones due to the transformation of existing professions. So in terms of the impact, how will the dual transformation affect international trade and investment? We look at the value chain because that's where our businesses participate. So the dual transformation will disrupt international value chains in 4 stages. First, it will lead to new patterns of consumer behavior, demand preferences, and change consumption patterns. This will also lead to changing the demand for less resource-intensive and more environmentally friendly products and services. Second, these changes in consumption would be enforced in the value chain through various types of new designs, standards, and specifications. Third, changes in the governance regime of the global value chains will create green entry barriers and green windows of opportunities. On the one hand, green entry barriers are created because governance patterns arising from the greening may translate into new constraints in meeting these requirements for suppliers, making GVCs more difficult or forcing them to exit. On the other hand, windows of opportunities exist for certain suppliers who can develop sustainability capabilities, leveraging them to their advantage. Finally, firms would undergo various innovations to reduce ecological footprint. In terms of investment, GIGLER 2020 also raises the issue of addressing the investment gap for clean climate technologies. The venture capital funding for climate change have been declining since 2011. Renewable energy startups founded in Silicon Valley have shut down, and a mere 2.5 to 6% of US venture capital funding is going to climate technologies. The same pattern is observed in the recently released World Investment Report 2023 by UNCTAD, which observed that much of the growth in international investment in renewable energy has been concentrated in developed countries. Developing countries need renewable energy investments of about $1.7 trillion annually, but FDI in clean energy in 2022 is only at $544 billion, or one-third of the needed amount. So the role of science and technology. To succeed in their dual transformation, governments will not only need to spend more on R&D, they will also need to invest these funds strategically. This will entail taking the long-term view of aligning their economic, digital, environmental, industrial, and agricultural policies, among others, to ensure that they are mutually reinforcing. To be coherent, reforms, policies, and resources will all need to point in the same direction, towards the same strategic goal of sustainable development. For this dual transformation to support achievement of a sustainable future, countries will need to raise their commitment to science, technology, and innovation, including R&D. Recent UNESCO figures show that advanced economy still accounts for a majority of research expenditure, researchers, publications, and patents. Although research expenditure rose in most regions between 2014 and 2018, 80% of countries still invest less than 1% of GDP in R&D. In some cases, the researcher population has risen faster than related expenditure, leaving less funding available to each researcher. And these are observed by UNESCO and UNCTAD. Let me just go very quickly to a topic that is very much of interest to a lot of people these days, which is AI. So why should we care about AI? AI may have a transformational impact by helping countries unlock the power of innovation. Zeroing in on the domestic economy, investing in AI benefits companies in a number of ways, such as increasing speed of execution, reducing costs, improving the understanding of complex processes, and transforming engagements and fortifying trust. But there are negative consequences to AI. AI and other technologies risk the widening of the gap between rich and poorer countries by shifting more investment to advanced economies where automation is already established. A recent article by The Economist in 2023 shows that 80% of Americans could have at least 10% of their work tasks done by AI tools. For some workers, as much as 50% of their work tasks can be accomplished without loss in quality by AI tools. These workers belong to industries which heavily rely on programming and writing skills, such as legal services, financial services, and insurance services. Telemarketers could be made redundant as well, as well as teachers, especially those in languages, history, and literature, are next in line. There is, however, some glimmer of hope that as jobs that need essential human qualities such as empathy and charisma have been overlooked by these studies. AI tools will also need handlers, which may end up creating new jobs. So how can the country prepare for the advent of AI? The country can draw from the lessons of legacy companies and their AI journey. Some suggestions would include formulating a clear set of ideas about what they want to accomplish with AI, beginning by investing in data and analytics, preparing an IT architecture not just for businesses but also for government, and enabling the integration of AI with the workflow of government agencies. Now let me end my presentation by presenting the role of government. So what should be the role of government in this world of dual transformation? One of the key functions of government is to ensure that the public sector perceives the dual transformation not as mutually exclusive events, in order to ensure that the progress can be achieved on both fronts. It would also allow cross-government synergies addressing issues of equity. Microsoft in 2023 has identified a diagnostic framework to describe the progress of governments and economies in their dual transition. So the framework has 4 stages. The first stage is fragmented, which is characterized by governments setting ambitious targets aligned with SDGs and Paris Climate Agreement. However, detailed plans have not been laid out, and there is a lack of standardization for incorporating climate and environmental risks into the strategic planning. In this stage, governmental action is tied to addressing regulatory failures and disaster response rather than proactive resilience and adaptation planning. Many policies are still in inception phases, and there is a failure to find the best pathways forward to implement the policies. The second stage is limited, and this is characterized by governments making inroads in their sustainability journeys, but innovation is piecemeal, and there are pockets of excellence rather than comprehensive planning. For example, governments are starting to think about common sustainability definitions and resource needs. And to this end, we need some governments developing climate and sustainability coordination units to address these gaps. The third stage is realized, and some governments have aimed to achieve this phase during the recovery from COVID-19 pandemic, as strategies for inclusive recovery are both related to the clean transition and to the digital transformation. In this stage, governments have established a joined-up approach around sustainability, linking across government agencies and between central and local governments. Senior leaders begin to champion the role of digital technologies in enabling sustainable development. The final stage is the transformed, and this is characterized by sustainability concepts being embedded within government departments, and culture of sustainability emerges across its core services and across stakeholders. Senior leaders are engaged in the overall planning and implementation of green technologies. So with this framework, and I leave you with this framework, it's a way of telling us where we want to achieve as we move towards our target of being a transformed economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Francis Quimba, for your comprehensive presentation on the twin transition, the opportunities it presents, as well as the risks that must be mitigated And thank you also for discussing the role of government. So at this point, we will hear the insights of our invited experts from the various sectors. And we are very honored to have with us today as our first, representative from the national government, Assistant Secretary Philip Varilla of the Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT. I think you will all agree with me that the role of DICT is very crucial in the twin transition. Engineer Philip A. Varilla is Assistant Secretary for Free Wi-Fi and National Broadband Implementation. He was appointed to that position in August 2022, and he was recognized for his exemplary service in the field of telecommunications development and policy and regulations by what is now the Department of Transportation and an Institute of Electronics and Communications Engineers of the Philippines, respectively. Engineer Varilla holds a master's degree in industrial engineering and management and a bachelor's degree in electronics and communications engineering. Ladies and gentlemen, Assistant Secretary Philip A. Varilla.
Thank you for your kind introduction. Dr. Aniceto, Orbeta Jr., sir, Mayor Benjamin Magalong, Mayor of the City of Baguio, members of the DPRS Steering Committee, participants in the venue and online, and our online participants, fellow speakers, good morning. In behalf of the DICT, I would like to thank PIDS for inviting us to this event to kick off the 21st Development Policy Research Month. with the theme Going Green and Digital for a more sustainable, inclusive, and progressive, prosperous future for all. We also would like to thank Dr. Francis Quimba and the other members of the team for writing the Green and Digital Concept Note, which provides some insights on achieving the different SDGs with dual transformation. Next slide, please. Let me start by providing comments in relation to SDG 16 by promoting transparency, accountability, and participative governance, together with SDG 17 on multi-stakeholder engagement and partnerships. The DICT, as the primary policy making body in the executive branch and government on ICT, provides the guidance and direction through continuous partnerships with other government agencies, both national and local government, in coming up with policies, plans, programs, and projects to improve public access to ICTs, capacity building and resource sharing, consumer protection and industry development, cybersecurity, and countryside development. We also believe that through consultation and collaboration with the private sector and the civil society, we can develop and issue ICT plans and frameworks to promote the national ICT development agenda. With this, and through harmonization, collaboration, and a relentless pursuit of excellence, we can bolster our nation's international standing, empower our people, and pave the way for a brighter, more interconnected future. Next slide, please. We have developed the National ICT Plan, such as the Digital Government Master Plan 2023 to 2028, based on the goals and objectives of the following plans and roadmaps. The United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda for 2023, wherein digital government can play a role in building effective, inclusive, and accountable institutions to support policy making and service delivery for the SDGs. The ASEAN Digital Master Plan 2025, which desires to increase the high quality and relevant digital services across the ASEAN region. The ASEAN member states' governments shall provide better e-government services and make government data available to end users. In the local perspective, the Ambisyon Natin 2040 envisions Filipinos trusting its government that is free of corruption and provides service to all its citizens equally. Therefore, the government shall begin the process of confidence building by being clean, fair, and citizen-centered. Meanwhile, the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028 also seeks to accelerate digital transformation in government to optimize and integrate its services in improving efficiency and right-sizing of government. In order to achieve this, the government will strengthen its legal and institutional framework, adopt paperless, cashless, and data-empowered transactions at all levels, and develop civil service capacity for implementation. In the National ICT Development Agenda, digitalization is a critical element in achieving the National ICT Development Agenda. It unlocks the potential use of digital technologies in improving the government's initiative to streamline operations, enhance productivity, and create new opportunities for growth and innovation. Next slide, please. These are the two plans that we want to issue this year. The National ICT Development Agenda, as mandated by the DICT law, government, we are mandated to plan, develop, and promote the National ICT Development Agenda. And pursuant to this National ICT Development Agenda, The directives of the current administration is to develop, plan, and promote digital transformation across all sectors in government. Next slide, please. To give you a more detailed explanation of the National ICT Development Agenda, this serves as a blueprint in creating a vibrant ICT ecosystem through leveraging the power of ICT in advancing nation building, good governance, and global competitiveness. It has 6 ICT development agenda. First and foremost is the digital connectivity, and we have actually issued the national broadband plan for this. The second one is the digital transformation, transforming economic and social sectors and institutions for a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient society. The third one is digital inclusivity, not just for people who are in unserved and underserved areas, but to people who may be disadvantaged or have fewer opportunities for development. ICT resiliency and sustainability, which is actually the focus of this forum, this event. I will discuss this later. And strategic partnership, I already talked about that earlier. And some discussions also on digital ecosystems development. Next slide, please. On top of our local and international commitment, the National ICT Development Agenda aims to address our current Philippine ICT challenges. Among these identified challenges, policy and regulatory framework and environmental sustainability impedes the goal of the country in achieving a robust, eco-friendly, and enduring digital ecosystem that benefits society, the economy, and the environment. Policy and regulatory framework revolves around creating a backbone for a thriving digital society as it sets the guidelines and rules governing the deployment, access, and use of ICTs. It plays a pivotal role in bridging the digital divide, promoting economic growth, and creating a framework for environmental impact mitigation of ICT development in the country. Environmental sustainability is a predominant concern in today's interconnected world. As the digital landscape continues to expand, it's crucial to prioritize practices that minimize the environmental impact of ICT. This includes adopting energy-efficient technologies, optimizing data center operations, and reducing electronic waste through responsible recycling. Next slide, please. The National ICT Development Agenda, particularly Agenda 4.0, prioritizes ICT resilience and sustainability. The NICT-DA, or the National ICT Development Agenda, have identified objectives, targets, and enabling strategies that would be prioritized as a medium-term goal of the country in pursuing a resilient and sustainable ICT environment. First is the update of existing plan, policies, and regulatory framework related to the emergency response, climate change, and cybersecurity across the country. Under this, we are to limit negative impacts of digitalization towards the environment, to strategize ICT infrastructure to mitigate environmental impacts, and promote renewable sources of energy towards ICT infrastructure. The second one is to utilize modern ICT infrastructure to mitigate risks and negative impact of electronic waste and climate change. Under this is to reduce carbon footprint brought by e-waste. We need to establish monitoring mechanism of e-waste management, update existing policies on the use of electronic waste in the country, and to establish an e-waste facility to regulate and recycle e-waste materials. Next slide, please. This is the Digital Government Master Plan 2023 to 2028. And this plan seeks to harmonize and coordinate all ICT initiatives to optimize available government ICT resources, encourage information and resource sharing, and database building, and ensure the development and protection of an integrated government ICT infrastructure. It also focuses on convergence programs intended to equip the national government with necessary technologies and skills to achieve a digitally enabled administration capable of delivering efficient, fast, and quality basic services which cut across the whole of government. Next slide, please. The Philippine Digital Governance Transformation Architecture Framework, as shown in the slide, of the Digital Digital Government Master Plan 2023 to 2028 outlines the interactions and cross-dependencies of government processes in the achievement of the priorities of the current administration, anchored on post-pandemic recovery and regaining the stature of the Philippines as an economic gravitas. It is anchored to national plans such as Ambisyon Natin 2040, the Philippine Development Plan 2023 to 2028, and the National ICT Development Agenda. A digitally transformed government is seen as collaboration and partnership not only among agencies, but also with citizens and the government and the private sector. It is centered along four major areas: government to government, or G2G, government to business, G2B, government to citizen, G2C, and government to employee, G2E. At its core, the DGMP 2023-2028 envisions to lay the groundwork for fully implementing strategies geared towards the digital transformation of government to improve public service delivery, integrate and secure government digital infrastructure, and empower its workforce and society. Under Strategic Trust 1, Digital Government Platforms and Services, it aims to strengthen the governance in the country through development and issuance of policies, standards, and systems that will serve as foundation for digital transformation. There are four strategies identified, namely transitioning from traditional to digital government. Second one is creating an agile bureaucracy through improving government back-end functions. The third one is to improve online services for businesses and citizens. And the fourth one is enabling a data-driven government. Meanwhile, Strategic Trust 2 is on digital government infrastructure and resilience, which seeks to establish a resilient government ICT infrastructure that shall enable the digitalization of public service delivery. This trust has three strategies. First one is expanding ICT infrastructure coverage. Second one is strengthening security and privacy. And the third one is bridging the digital divide. Further, Strategic Trust 3 is on digital government workforce and society, wherein building the capacities of government workforce and society is included amidst the implementation of digital transformation in the bureaucracy. This trust currently has four strategies. First one is to strengthen the ICT institutional structure in government. The second one is enhancing digital skills of government workforce. Third one is fostering citizens' e-participation. And the fourth one is promoting ease of doing business. Next slide, please. Under the Strategic Trust 2, Digital Government Infrastructure and Resilience, the DGMP has identified initiatives and targets related to government going green and digital. And this is to promote green ICT initiatives in the government. Under this, the target is the adoption of policies in promoting energy efficiency and conservation and development of electronic waste management program in the government. The DGMP is currently in the development phase, and this initiative may be further substantiated during the regional multi-stakeholder consultations nationwide. Next slide, please. This is the timeline of activities of the two plans that we are going to issue this year. We are doing ready the multi-stakeholder consultation. Actually, this September, we hope to launch the NICT DA 2023-2028 on September 28th. And next month, we will be launching the DGMP 2023 to 2028 on October 27. With that, I would like to thank everybody for your attention.
Thank you very much, ASIC Philip Varilla of the DICT, for telling us about the department's initiatives on ICT development and digital governance, which are both crucial in realizing the twin transformation. At this point, we will hear the insights of the private sector, and we are very honored to have with us via Zoom Mr. Earl Martin Valencia. Mr. Valencia is a co-founder of Plentina, an AI and fintech startup in the digital wealth management space. In June 2023, he was appointed by the President of the Philippines as an executive member of the National Innovation Council, representing the business sector. For his contributions to emerging market innovation, he was honored by the World Economic Forum as a young global leader and awarded as one of the 10 outstanding young men and women in the Philippines. Mr. Valencia earned his degree in electrical engineering, summa cum laude, from Boston University, and he also has a master's degree in systems engineering from Cornell University and an MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business with certificates in global and public management. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Earl Martin Valencia.
Hello. Greetings from the New York area. Thanks for having me here. I think it's equally important to really talk about innovation, especially green innovation in the digitalization side, right? And I'm here today to kind of represent actually two hats. I have two hats. One is I'm co-founder of a fintech startup called Plentina. And the other one is that as mentioned, I was appointed by the president to be in the National Innovation Council representing the business sector, particularly actually in startups and innovation as well, right? So today, for the next maybe 10 minutes or so or less, it's really talk about what's your national innovation, and really aligning our nation towards a sustainable future, but really powered by innovation, right? It's kind of my point here. I think, I'm one of the 25 members of the NIC, so I'm not necessarily the only NIC member. So I have to put in a disclaimer that, most of my thoughts here are kind of mine and not the official position of the NIC, because that's the policy making body for that. But, my background really is primarily in the business sector, in innovation and startups, and also venture capital. Work kind of mostly in New York, Silicon Valley, and in Manila. I used to head innovation for PLDT and Smart, and then I moved to the US and worked in Wall Street. So, and now I'm a co-founder of a fintech startup. But a lot of people are still actually trying to understand the NIC, and so much so because the law was only passed maybe 3 years ago. And the law really states that, how do we actually build up policies that align the entire government towards innovation, but also align the entire country towards innovation. So this is actually a landmark law because it then tells us, Filipinos and also the world, that innovation is one of the main priorities of this government and governments to come in the future, right? So part of that law is to build innovation council, which is a policy-making advisory body that's chaired by the President of the Philippines, 16 department secretaries. It's co-chaired, actually, it's the vice chair is NEDA, and 7 of us from the private sector, 4 from academe, 1 representing MSME, and 2 from the business sector. So you just have here, end of June is when we were sworn in. So the NIC actually was probably just started probably a year and a half ago, and the executive members were all appointed just a few months ago. So now the 25-member policymaking body is complete for the first time, I guess, in history. So I think this is the big question, right? I mean, ultimately, for us as a nation, for us in business, for us in government, can innovation be the catalyst to create meaningful and sustainable change in the country, right? And with the backbone of this research, which is green and digitization, ultimately the question is, will it impact our lives, our countrymen's lives, and ultimately the world in a positive way, right? I think that's the questions that we have to ask, beyond just the theory, beyond the practice. It's really, this is the result, right? So for us, that's the type of thinking that we need to do together, right here. Can innovation be the catalyst for change? And part of the Innovation Council and part of the PDP, the Philippine Development Plan, is really this notion of, can we then align our national innovation agenda in these couple of buckets, right? So with the Ambition 2040, which is 20 years from now, hopefully we'll have a prosperous population. But what is really the foundation of this, right? Like these four major areas, I think is important for us to know, because this then dictates the innovation agenda of the Philippines through the NIC. So first is about how to then build smart and innovative people, right? Through learning and health and well-being. How do we then build up a really competitive but resilient economy, right? And resilience comes from security, right? So, food security, financial security, how to have manufacturing and trade, and then also having really a robust transportation and logistics infrastructure. How do we make sure that our institutions are reliable, from the public institutions to security and defense? And then how do we think about innovations in the notion of, sustainable environment, especially clean and sustainable environment in regards to energy, blue economy, and water, right? So I think these are the general areas that we have to think about, because if we then focus on these verticals, then we then build a great innovation ecosystem that is potentially good for the Filipino people, but also important for the world, for us to export our own innovations to the rest of the world, right? And the innovation enablers here, as I mentioned, is our NIC policies, programs, infrastructure, and financing, right? So that's really the framework that we have on our innovation agenda as a country, right? So what is the general thoughts? This is kind of my own personal thoughts now, right? Like, look, the challenge maybe I pose to all of us is, if we think about our innovations, can we as a country think about being number one or number two in producing certain commercializable innovations in certain sectors in the world that we can then potentially grow but then export to the world, right? Can we be, let's say, number one in building innovations related to climate change and resilience as a country? Right? Disaster preparedness. I mean, imagine that this is something important, right? Like, there's 25 typhoons. I was telling some of my friends in New York that there's 20 plus typhoons per year. They're like, oh, is that per decade? No, per year. People got shocked, right? So if we know this is coming, how do we actually be good at this, right? Early detection systems, clean energy. We're one of the most populous countries in the world, but then we import agriculture, right? So how do we then create innovations to then increase our yield and increase our food security, right? Next one is about financial access. I already mentioned this a while ago, but really, how do we then build really wealth for our country, right? So I think people think of the Philippines actually as spenders, but not savers. So how do we then build a country built really on this mentality of actually growing wealth rather than to spend the money and not have wealth in the end? And then obviously health and wellness is very important, but this enablers in the bottom is also quite important, which is digital infrastructure, business infrastructure, and human capital infrastructure, right? So this is really the framework that I think I look at with regards to innovation and for us too. But this is actually an important point, right? Because what I call is, I forgot who mentioned this, but there's a quote where, vision without execution is hallucination, right? And so for us, the key really is how do we actually build an innovation ecosystem built on the two pillars, right? Which is this combination of R&D and ideation, but really measured towards incubation and then commercialization, right? I think the most important part really is how do we commercialize our ideas, our theories, and then make it and go to market, right? Go to market locally in the Philippines and then go to market globally for the world, right? So this is really the thought here of like, how do we create, sorry, there's a kind of typo here. How do we create a green and inclusive innovation built really on a digital infrastructure? And if we look at the two areas, which I think has a direct correlation to our topic today, which is this two major buckets, right? Like a competitive and resilient economy with regards to agriculture and aquaculture, finance, manufacturing, logistics, and also a sustainable environment, we can then help scale those innovations really using digital means, right? Especially now, right? Cloud computing, data, AI, like these are tools that we have to use in the Philippines in order to tackle these big problems that we're facing right now. And I think that's really the thought here, right? Like we can have both, right? We can have both green and resilient economy, but at the same time, really use digital means in order to actually create the change that we want in a scalable and meaningful way, right? So sometimes people think, oh, this is two separate streams, but actually no, right? Digital is a tool, right? Digital is a tool, but then to actually solve the big problems that we have. So for example, right? So this is some examples that I have in my mind based on some of the talk, right? So, in the past quarter, actually in Q1 2023, the S&P 500, which is the 500 biggest stocks in the New York Stock Exchange market, actually the US stock market, more than 100 or more than 20% of the CEOs actually mentioned AI and giving an AI strategy, right? So the question for us in the Philippines, and a challenge maybe to our CEOs, is how many of our CEOs, both in public and private, actually have an AI strategy for ourselves, right? So right now, this is something very important because they understand that we have to get ahead and really use the latest tools in order to actually solve the problems that we have. And it's an expectation. In fact, I think there's a joke now and with analysts that you really need to have an articulated digital and AI strategy as a CEO, else your stock price might get affected, right? So imagine that we also have to think this way, right? On what that is. So for example, there's some areas. So I saw this thing very interesting of a case study, right? Because I'm trying to show examples that this is already happening. This is not theory, right? Of the combination of these key priorities with digital. And if we do that, then maybe create maximum impact, right? So one case study is from Accenture that I saw where actually in the Philippines, how do we then use AI to help power coral reef restoration, right? As you probably know that we're one of the largest, coastal countries in the world. And if we don't do this, then how do we actually create a more resilient economy, both for food, but at the same time for our own climate, right? But then digital and combination of digital and also this problem, which is reef restoration, how do we solve problems for this, right? And I think Accenture has a really interesting case study. This is a company actually that I advised from India, actually more than 5 years ago, but now they're kind of in scale stage of how do we use AI towards aquaculture, so fisheries, etc., and actually build this to actually help out the value chain of aquaculture, right? So AquaConnect is one of the leading, I guess, aquaculture tech companies in India, and they use AI remote sensing, which is satellites, to really figure out and help the aquaculture value chain, right? So these things are not theory anymore. This is an actuality, right? And for example, for us in Plentina, as I already mentioned a while ago, so this is my other hat of we're actually using AI and data in order to help people invest their money easier and scale it from what I call is the top 1% who gets wealth advice to actually the rest of the population and getting wealth advice, but through a robo advisor, right? So we're also using AI not just to actually make things easier, but also to democratize something that is actually exclusive before the digital tools can come to be, right? So these are some areas now. So this is kind of my last slide, but the question that I posed in the beginning, right, as the business sector rep of the NIC, can innovation really be a catalyst for change in our country? And I think the key really here is these 2 points, right? Like, we just must align in a private and public resources to leverage innovation, but really in the service of democratization of what we need to do for the country and really to scale impact. So we really have to use digitization as a tool in order to meet our green and sustainable goals. Thank you so much.
Very much, Mr. Valencia, for emphasizing your contribution, as well as Plentina for having a pure AI strategy. So at this point, we will hear from our last panelist who will share his insights on our DPRM theme, as well as some practical examples that he can share with us on how it is how digitalization or the green transition is being practiced or is being implemented in his local government. We are honored to have with us the local chief executive of Baguio City, Mayor Benjamin Magalong. Many knew him as a decorated police officer, having served the Philippine Constabulary in the Philippine National Police for many years. But since 2019, he has led the city of Baguio as its mayor, advocating good governance, environmental conservation, and peace and order, among others. At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, he was appointed contact tracing czar in recognition of his COVID-19 testing and tracing policies in Baguio City, held by medical experts as a model the whole country should follow. In 2023, Baguio City was one of the 10 LGUs chosen to participate in the Green Economy Program of the DENR, which seeks to promote the Philippines' transition to green recovery. We are excited to hear from Mayor Magalong, his insights on green recovery and digitalization, as well as his local government's initiatives to realize these in Baguio City. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Benjamin Magalong, joining us via Zoom.
Maraming salamat. I would like to greet Dr. Aniceto Orbeta, Dr. Marife Ballesteros, and Assistant Secretary Philip Varilla, and my fellow speakers for today's event, Dr. Francis Mark Quimba and Mr. Earl Martin Valencia. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. We're gathered here today as we celebrate the 21st Development Policy Research Month with the theme Going Green and Digital for a More Sustainable, Inclusive, and Prosperous Future for All. In Filipino, maging makakalikasan at digital para sa higit na matatag, inklusibo at masaganang kinabukasan para sa lahat. It is my privilege to address you all on this critical issue that affects not only our city, but the entire world, as we face the challenge of ensuring our progress is inclusive and benefits everyone in our diverse community. One of the most promising paths towards this sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future lies in the intersection of two powerful forces, going green and going digital. Today, I want to share with you the city's data and best efforts in embracing both sustainability and technology in this fast-paced environment. Baguio is a highly urbanized city with a population of 380,000 as of 2023. We occupy a small landlocked area of 5,747 hectares or 57 square kilometers with a density of 66 persons per hectare. And we expect that the residence population will double and hit 700,000 in 50 years. We have a nighttime population that doubles at daytime and triples or quadruples during holidays and weekends. This means that the need for power, water, the influx of people and cars, and the demand for other services change through time and season. We are also known as Summer Capital, a center of education, tourism, trade, and business. Our environment is uniquely different from the rest of the Philippines. It is 1,500 meters above sea level, with a mountain biogeography characterized by pine forests and cooler by 2 degrees Celsius from the rest of the country. This multifaceted role and population environment dynamics characterizes the complexity of the urban systems that make up our city. In order to properly manage this complexity, we decided to transform the city to becoming a smart city by 2027. This move is our deliberate answer to provide solutions to present-day complex urban management issues in order to meet our vision of becoming a livable city, a sustainable city, and a green city. In 2019, an environmental carrying capacity study showed us that we have breached environmental thresholds vis-a-vis population growth. We are developing our comprehensive development and land use plans with a framework prioritizing environmental conservation and protection while providing sustainable infrastructure support, social development, and health services to our residents. We're working on an economic rebound to recoup and exceed the setbacks caused by the pandemic, by this time on a mission of balancing it with environmental conservation. We have a projected gross city domestic product of 9.8% in 2021, which is higher than the 7% GDP of the country the same year. And we have already exceeded the pre-pandemic tourist numbers of 1.6 million in 2022. Our economy is rooted in manufacturing and services, and we are exploring strategies to transform to greener practices and diversity to industries that will not put too much pressure on our environment. We are the Philippines' first UNESCO creative city, and we're putting into place the groundwork for a robust creative economy in the city of Baguio. We're putting together the building blocks of the smart city platform, where information and communications technology, big data analytics, machine learning, and artificial intelligence will help us uncover urban patterns, environmental issues, special trends, and demographic correlations in order to guide our planning and decision-making. Our command center and data hub currently had 6 use cases, namely video monitoring, surveillance, 911, air monitoring, water monitoring, flood early warning system, and traffic and mobility monitoring. We are testing our operational model in order that we will successfully connect people and services. Together with the Baguio Tourism Council, we developed the Baguio Visita, or Baguio Visitors Information and Travel Assistance digital platform. From its original intention as a digital registration platform to visitors wishing to enter Baguio during the height of the COVID pandemic, this application aids us in establishing and managing the numbers of visitors that enter the city. It is likewise transforming to become a digital marketplace for tourism enterprises. The city has payment digitalization initiatives. We launched the Baguio in My Pocket e-governance application on November 16, 2022. We are enhancing accessibility to services, making them available at everyone's fingertips. This transition to digitalization is further exemplified when we afterwards launched the Paleng QR Page program of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and Department of Interior and Local Government in April 2023. By promoting cashless payments, we're not only simplifying transactions, but also fostering a culture of digital engagement. To encourage our business owners to use the program, the City Council passed Ordinance Number 71, Series 2022, granting a 2.5 discount on business taxes on the first year of adoption. To become sustainable, we have to work on raising resilience in our people and communities. Our city is disaster prone, considering that there are natural and man-made hazards present within and outside our borders. We have been building a 3D spatial database system, or digital twin, which is a technology that can be likened to an avatar, in order to have a real-time baseline in order to allow us to perform simulation, monitoring, diagnosis, and control in the future. In 2021, the OST PHIVOLCS conducted a seismic stratigraphy study in order to measure ground shaking and building resonance. Since we have a small land area with just 284 hectares left for future developments, the study will aid us in formulating appropriate density and zoning throughout the city. We need to develop compact and high-rise settlements now, but these developments should already be safe, green, and self-sustaining. That solutions to alternative energy, water, and even food systems are incorporated in planning and design. We have a template for this kind of development by way of first socialized housing development in the city. We call it the Luna Socialized Housing and Permaculture Community. Why permaculture? Because we intend to bring back the culture of gardening, of water recycling, of soil conservation, zero waste, and food security in our communities. This housing project is now at 50% accomplishment, and we will soon be relocating beneficiary families to this site. The beneficiaries are families that are currently living in hazard areas and needing housing assistance. For infrastructure development, we are now moving toward the realm of nature-based solutions. And as we plan for much-needed public areas such as community open spaces and parks for our residents, we are at the same time expanding environmental services through science-based approaches. Technology allows us to understand, program, and implement projects that invest in co-benefits for people and for environment. We are investing 120 million next year for the redevelopment of Session Road. This historic road will soon be rejuvenated through the expansion of sidewalk areas and incorporation of more green and permeable surfaces. This road will become a showcase for pedestrianization efforts and nature-based solutions in the city. With the rejuvenation of Session Road, which is the heart of our central business district, we are endeavoring to decongest the CBD and develop growth nodes in other parts of the city and linking them to regional growth nodes. These growth nodes intend to provide spatial equity in terms of socioeconomic opportunities in other areas of the city. We're also currently developing our smart mobility system together with low-carbon urban transport solutions in order to link the growth nodes to the communities with cleaner mobility options. Safety and efficiency will definitely improve the quality of life of our people as well as the quality of our environment. For all these city endeavors, I would like to emphasize the importance of research and innovation in supporting our digital and environmental decisions and actions. We believe that at this age and time, given the complex urban issues that we are encountering and add to that impacts of climate change, it is through research and innovation where we can develop environmental and social solutions to city challenges while at the same time sustaining economic growth. New solutions with new technologies and decoupling environmental degradation from resource-intensive urban activities may bring us to the path of our desired development. Maraming salamat po sa inyo lahat. Mabuhay.
Maraming salamat din po, Mayor Benjamin Magalong of Baguio City. Thank you for sharing us the initiatives on digitalization and green transition in your city, as well as for emphasizing the importance of innovation and policy research. At this point, okay, we now open the floor for questions from the media. And I would like to invite our on-site speakers, Dr. Francis Quimba and Asik Varilla, to join us in front, please. And you may also have questions for our virtual speakers, Mr. Earl Valencia and Mayor Magalong. So yes, you can ask them questions. So who wants to go first? I think Joshua Garcia of PTD4 would like to go first. Please,
Good morning. Good morning po. Joshua Garcia from PTV4. First of all, congratulations on your 21st DPRM.
louder, please. Sir.
I would like to address this question probably for PIDS. Ano po is para lang din po sa kaalaman ng publiko for soundbite. Ano po yung maaaring asahan na pakinabang ng mamamayan, particular po sa private and public sector dito sa DPRM, sa DPRM natin? And can you give some examples po? And my second question, perhaps para we can prepare, is pwede mo paki-elaborate kahit konti kung ano po yung magiging efforts and role ng PIDS in regards po doon sa twin transition. Thank you.
Francis?
Hello? First, siguro kailangan natin maintindihan ano yung role ng PIDS sa nation building. No? So, ang PIDS kasi talagang think tank that does policy research. Pinag-aaralan niya yung mga polisiya. Kaugnay din nun, yung PIDS, siya din yung nagbibigay ng direction pagdating sa research at ang mga bago at mga emerging na topics na nangyayari sa buong mundo. At yun nga, yun na napansin namin sa PIDS, may maraming mga forces, mga nangyayari sa buong mundo na maaari makaapekto sa atin. At katulad nun is yung mabilis na pagtanggap sa digitalization at nararamdaman natin siya. Pero kaugnay nun, yung sa pagdating din sa green transition, yung pagka maraming mga bansa ang talagang pinopromote na yung clean energy, maging conscious tayo sa mga pag-consume natin. No? And these forces, ito yung mga kailangan natin sigurong pag-aralan at matignan at yung mga polisiya natin kung naka-align ba sila dito sa mga forces na ito para magamit din natin para sa ikabubuti natin yung mga nagaganap na ito. Katulad nun, kailangan maging handa tayo kasi alam natin maraming bansa ang gagamit ng AI. At paano natin paghahandaan yon sa ating bansa para yung mga katulad nating mga tulad namin, baka mawalan kami ng trabaho pagdating ng susunod na katulad ng mga ating mga telemarketers, teachers, paano natin sila ihahanda pagdating sa kinabukasan. Tapos ganun din, katulad kaugnay din ng pangalawang tanong, ano yung role ng PIDS pagdating sa green transition? Hindi kami policy implementer. Hindi namin ma-implement kung na i-push na kailangan ganito. Pero ang namin is mapag-aaralan namin yung mga polisiya, kung ano ba yung mga polisiya na related sa green transition. And I think yun yung pwede namin mai-contribute dito. Kaya rin namin ginawa itong DPRM at itong topic na ito for this month. Ay para first is to disseminate the information, paipaalam sa lahat na maging aware na mayroong two forces na nangyayari at the same time na pwede natin masakyan, no? Para masabayan natin na nangyayari itong mga forces na ito. At pangalawa is to encourage government agencies and the private sector, the public sector, na pag-aralan, paghandaan itong mga two forces na ito. So yun yung mga magiging role ng PIDS.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Please say your name and your affiliation po.
Magandang umaga, gentlemen. Ako po si Plentina, Philippine Information Agency. Para kay Mayor Magalong. Napag-usapan ho ba ninyo to sa inyong mga liga? Maganda po yung mga naipakita natin, yung karanasan natin sa pandemya po ay nagagamit po natin sa ngayon po. At sa kasalukuyan po yung ating DOST tsaka iba pa natin mga ahensya, meron naman mga technology na nakahanda na para hindi lang po sa mga taga dito kundi pati sa mga taga abroad po na pwede natin ma-encourage. Now, alam natin maglalabas po ng plano po ang ating DICT na pwedeng sundan na rin po natin. And based po doon sa experience ng Baguio po, parang nakalatag na po eh. Now my question is now, sir, how supportive yung mga liga po sa atin? And siguro po, mga liga mga LGUs para pagdating sa ganitong experience. And para naman po sa NIC, Sir Earl, meron bang movement within the innovation na, although alam ko baka hindi ito yung magiging function, you may need to talk with the DI okay, talk to the embassies to show that our products are ready for global. Kailangan na lang namin may latag lang po yung kasi ngayon iba't iba kasi ngayon yung mga platforms DOST has platforms, may mga pero ba tayong plano na let's say na isang malakihang hub where everybody gusto mo ng ganito sa isang probinsya, lalabas siya, mga ganun tipong and yung bang innovation, paano na i-encourage yung mga SMEs natin, pati yung mga neighborhood although yung mga neighborhood matagal pa yan, paano tayo encourage po yung mga LGUs na matulungan ng LGUs na itaas ang nila at magkaroon ng mga ganitong platform at infrastructure. Sir.
Marami pong salamat, sir. Mayor Magalong, yung una pong tanong ay para sa inyo. Narinig po ba niyo yon? Ang tanong po ay how supportive daw po ang mga liga nyo sa mga nabanggit po nyo ng mga plano at mga programa sa Baguio City.
Ma'am, ikaw ko lang, sir. Bali po, I understand po, you're not answerable to the leagues, but kung naikwento niyo po sa kapwa local executives kung karanasan po ninyo, and how are sila po ba ay very accepting po sa suggestion? Meron po ba sumusunod sa inyo mga hakbang?
Okay, thank you. Maraming salamat. Gusto ko lang malaman sa inyo, may paalam sa inyo na yung aming smart city, dati-rati ang dami naming tourist spots dito pupunta yung mga ibang mga local government units. But, one of the most visited facility now in the city of Baguio is our smart city, especially by the local government units. Pati mga national agencies, pati mga legislators, and mga secretaries, yan ang pinupuntahan nila lahat kasi gusto nila makikita kung ano ba talaga to, because they're not really very, very aware that there's such kind as a smart city platform. Ang nakikita lang kasi nila yung mga safe city platforms na nakikita nyo sa ibang mga local government units, at nakita nyo sa PNP, nakita nyo sa MMDA. These are basically smart city system, but ours is several levels higher. This smart city that allows you to integrate different types of systems, not only security, safety, but health, environment, governance, agriculture, education, floodwater mitigation warning system, even lighting. They call it smart lighting, smart mobility and transportation system. Ang daming systems na pwede mong integrate dito. Kaya talagang pag pumunta yung mga local government, local chief executives, talagang nakakon sila, na-overwhelm sila na pwede pala tayo magkaroon ng ganito. And in fact, marami talaga ang they would like to pursue this kind of a system, this kind of platform. But you should also understand that it goes with it the cost. Mahal eh. Mahal. And akala nyo, pag meron ka ng system na yan, wala ka ng recurring cost. No, malaki pa recurring cost. And you need really to have to invest in it para really ma-appreciate mo. So, right now, ang sinasabi namin sa mga local chief executives, they're very enthusiastic. In fact, talagang pupunta sila rito. No less than the Secretary of the Interior Local Government. Both si Secretary Ed Anyo, at ito si Secretary Penor Abalos. Talagang in-encourage nila yung mga local chief executives na punta kayo sa Baguio para makita nyo yung setup doon. Nakakaiba. But, as I've said, we don't actually recommend to the local chief executives to immediately put up this platform. Wag muna. Siguro, learn it from us. We have our own learnings. Kailangan unti-unti. Siguro, magtayo muna ng mga iba-ibang systems, stabilize muna nila, recalibrate muna nila. Sa nakita na nila na marami ng systems na naitayo sila, then that's the time that they can put up this platform para doon nila integrate lahat. Alam mo, this allows you to, every time you identify a strategic problem, lagi ka naghahanap ng data eh. Hindi naman pwedeng ang basis mo ng solution is what is popular, what would get me re-elected, what would widen my voters base. Hindi naman pwedeng ganon. Siguro yun ang pananaw ng mga traditional politicians. But having this kind of system allows you to base your strategic solutions, your decision-making processes on data, on evidence, on science. So, this is the future of this country and the future of the local government units. But as I've said, learn it from us. We are willing to share it with you, pati aming mga learnings, para hindi kayo gaano magastusan. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat, Mayor Magalong. And now may we hear from Mr. Earl Valencia, sir?
Yes, yeah. So I think the question really is, how do we actually build up, our innovation champions, right? Basically, how do we build an innovation ecosystem that actually creates something that we are proud of as a country, right? Because one thing that I've learned, so I used to head innovation for Smart, and I built this thing called Idea Space, which we've actually at the time, we went all over the Philippines and we funded ideas. And right now, I think Idea Space and Kubo probably supported more than 500 startups already. There's a lot of innovations in the Philippines, a lot of really smart innovators. One thing that we have to really build up actually is the enabling environment for them to thrive, right? And what does that mean? I think the mayor kind of mentioned this, right? Like we have to create what they call as innovation clusters in different parts of the Philippines so that innovators know where to go, right? So how do we build that, not just as a national innovation ecosystem, but even local innovation ecosystem is important. Us in the NIC, what we're trying to do is to actually build out policies and also direction and priorities of where actually we think we should actually focus our efforts on, that we have a chance to be number one, number two in the world in. That then actually makes sense for us as a country first, that helps our population, but then if we are very good at it, then we can potentially export the same ideas outside using the latest technology. Kaya nga, we have the 10 areas that we mentioned, no? The 4 major areas, but then the 10 different areas there. I think we have a chance. So yun yung sinasabi ko na I think the most important thing for us is how do we then align, no? I mean, sabi mo nga, no? DTI is there, DOST, DICT. I think us in the NIC, how do we actually build up really what they call as the railroad of innovation? No, I mean, literally from ideas or inventors, all the way up to funding and commercialization. How do we build that as a country? Because, a funny thing is, if you look at all APEC, when you're APEC or other World Bank, when our leaders come to those, guess what? The other world leaders are telling other world leaders, right? Like, this is my innovation strategy, what's yours, right? So this is actually exciting for us as a country because we do have one and it's shared even by the president, right? So I think that's really encouraging for all of us, for innovators in this country, because this is now a national level, priority or mindset for our country, and not like parang in the side lang because, side project lang of our country. That's what's exciting for me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Valencia. You have a follow-up question, sir? Briefly po kasi para makapagtanong po yung iba. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. For PIDS po, best po doon sana po siya sa green technology tsaka yung sa ating na-monitor nyo ba kung how much ang gaano kataas ang acceptance ng green technology applications, and yung pati doon sa gaano kalawak na yung accomplishment ng DICT, kasi alam ko po malawak na rin po ang ginawa ng DICT. Ano po na monitoring po nyo, and how close we are doon sa study nyo kung pagdating sa digitization process? And for Sir Philip po, we're expecting po yung paglabas po ng inyong plans na po dalawang klase, and Philippine Information is also supporting that paglabas po ng po niyan. And sa ngayon po ba, ano kailangan natin gawin sa mga lugar? Kasi di ba may mga tayo mga lugar na hindi abot simply because hindi sila hindi sila marketable, wala mas di ba? So pagdating ng mga bagay katulad ito, online trading, disaster risk reduction, climate change, parang may mga lugar na talagang offline ba kumbaga. And what are we doing right now kung wala pa yung plan? Thank you.
Maraming salamat, sir, for your very interesting question. Siguro unahin natin si Asik Philip, and then we go to Dr. Quimba.
Thank you sa tanong. Basically, yung ginagawa ng DICT through the National Broadband Program and the free Wi-Fi for all, no, program. We are connecting the unserved areas, no, yung mga GIDA sites natin. Of course, with the help of the private sector, no, we contract them and ask them to provide connectivity in unserved areas. In addition, through the National Broadband Program, we are actually going to cooperate with the telcos as well as other connectivity providers such as yung cable TV companies, ISPs, and even electric cooperatives, no, to extend fiber connectivity as well as to extend the mobile broadband signal to unserved areas. So yun yung ginagawa namin para yung mga kababayan natin na nasa malalayong lugar ay mabot ng telecom facilities, telecom services. Basically, broadband services. So, thank you. Salamat.
Maraming salamat. May iba pa pong katanungan dito sa floor? Anyone? Okay.
Sir, good morning sa DICT. Bernard Menyosa po from PMI News. Sir, paano niyo po tinitrace yung mga kumakalat ngayong mga scammers, lalo na via text? Until now, di ba meron na tayong SIM card registration? Until now, may laganap pa rin po yung mga text scam eh.
Meron pong grupo, no, sa DICT that's working on it. Yung pong aming Cybercrime Investigation and Coordinating Center, CICC, it's an attached agency of the department. They are meeting with our law enforcement agencies, no, PNP, NBI, as well as DOJ, para po imbestigahan, no, itong mga nangyayari. Actually, nabanggit po yan doon sa budget hearing namin, and nabanggit din naman ng CICC na meron pong mga ginagamit kasi ng mga equipment, no, kung saan nagagawa ng mga sindikato yung patuloy po na pag-i-scam, no? So yan po yung tinitrace nga nila through investigation kung saan-saan po yung mga yan.
Actually, sir, naniniwala ako na yung SIM card registration ay parang hindi pa siya fully 100% na effective. Kasi ako mismo, dala-dala ko po dyan yung bago kong billing. Pwede bang bagitin dito, SIM card. Nag-try akong mag-text, tinawagan ko rin, nag-call ako. Hindi ko pa na-register pero functional na. So ibig sabihin, sir, parang hindi effective yung ginawa nating nung nakaraang mga buwan, di ba? Paano po yun, sir?
Actually, merong binibigay na ilang araw, no, para sa may-ari nung bagong SIM card to register. Ang proseso dapat, yung binilhan mo, siya na dapat ang nagbigay sa iyo ng mga karampatang mga forms, no, para ma-fill upan mo. Pero kung hindi nangyari yan, binibigyan ng ilang araw ang bumili ng SIM card para ma-register, no. Kasi kung hindi mo ma-register, mawawala din po yan. Hindi nyo na rin magagamit.
So, yung ginawa ng DICT na due date, hindi pa rin pala yun na totally fixed doon sa sinasabi nilang due date na
para po yun doon sa mga existing, yung mga meron na pong SIM cards, no, bago po yung due date na yon. Ngayon, kung nabili po ninyo yan pagkatapos ng due date, yun nga, Ang ideal situation po dapat yung binilhan ninyo ay siya ang tutulong sa inyo para mag-register. Ngayon kung hindi naman, yun nga, through the telco website naman po, pwede
Yes, sir.
naman po register.
Nandyan po ma'am si Mayor.
Andyan pa ba si Mayor? Yes, nandyan pa si
Okay.
Mayor. Go ahead, sir.
Mayor, General, good morning. Long time no see.
Sir,
Ayan.
pwede na po kayo
Sir.
magtanong.
General, alam ko kayo po ay, kumbaga, ano tawag dyan? Kayo po yung isa sa mga lumalaban po sa korupsyon. Laban po dito sa mga, tulad ng binabanggit niyo po, itong nakalipas na buwan, meron po kayong mga natuklasan na mga korupsyon sa kapwa din ng mga taga-government officials. Paano niyo po nalaman sa ano po mga intelligence ang ginagamit niyo para ito po, napakaselan po dito kasi tago kasi yung corruption, ma'am eh.
Yeah.
Ano pong ginagamit ninyong...
Sir, with all due respect po, sana po yung mga questions natin ay related po sa pinag-usapan natin. We don't want to put our guest on the spot. We hope you understand po. Baka po pwedeng related dun sa topic. Ano po? Okay. Thank you very much. May iba pa pong katanungan ng ating mga friends from the media? Anyone? Okay, mukhang sa puntong ito ay wala na. How about those joining us online? Okay, so at this point, let us give all our panelists, both joining us on site and virtually, a big, okay, there is one more. Please. Is she the one joining us online? Okay, from the Manila Times? Okay. Okay, go ahead, Miss Jenica. Okay, is she here now? So it's Okay, the question is, since AI was mentioned, is the country really ready for AI or artificial intelligence? Ano yung kaya? Ano yung kaya ng Pilipinas at hindi kaya ng Pilipinas when it comes to AI? So siguro bigyan natin ng pagkakataon si baka Francis, gusto mong sagutin ito at pati na rin si si Asek din, being from the DICT, and also si Mr. Valencia. Francis, please go ahead.
Siguro i-address ko din yung naunang tanong, no, yung kung minomonitor ba natin yung nangyayari sa sa both sa green transition at sa digitalization. Ang nakikita natin based on data talaga is in the region, well, first, if we're going to look at it na in terms of digitalization, yun minomonitor talaga natin kasi kahit nung pandemic, talagang nakita natin na mabilis yung pagtanggap sa paggamit ng mga digital tools as a means of coping from the challenges of the pandemic. At hindi tayo bumalik. So nung tinanggap natin siya at nung inadopt natin yung digitalization, tuloy-tuloy nagpatuloy siya at nagtuloy-tuloy siya. Ang mahirap i-monitor is yung green transition kasi limitado ang data, limitado ang mga available statistics sa ating official statistics on green transition, kahit yun sa mga negosyo na gumagamit at gumagastos para sa environment, limitado, hindi natin masyadong nakikita. Pero ang nakikita natin in terms of global assessment and even sa region, nag-slide back yung likelihood na ma-achieve natin yung SDGs, especially dun sa environment related, yung SDG 12, 13, 14, and 15. So yun yung na nakikita natin. Kaya mahalaga rin na muli nating maiangat itong topic na ito, itong discussion na ito because of two things nga. Kasi mabilis nating ginagamit yung digitalization at yung meron ding mga forces na nangyayari globally na kailangan natin i-address yung green transition. So yun yung una. At yung pangalawa ay
Yung sa
sa
AI.
AI.
Oo.
Pagdating naman sa AI, I think yung kahandaan natin is, well, first is merong inisyatibo yung DTI, no, to make the country an AI hub. Pero bukod doon, I think yung kung handa ba tayo o hindi is a matter of kasi talagang nandiyan na siya. Mahirap na kailangan talaga natin maghanda. Kasi ang magiging tanong in the future is magkakaroon ng dalawang grupo. One group of stakeholders who are using AI and then another group who's not using AI. And we don't want to be part of that group na hindi tayo ready or hindi tayo gumagamit ng AI kasi magkakaroon na naman ng panibagong divide. So nakikita natin that there's a digital divide. Magkakaroon na naman ng panibagong divide at this time, AI naman yung pinag-uusapan.
Thank you very much. And may we hear from ASEC Varilla po?
Yung AI kasi, malaki ang may tutulong niya. Hindi lang sa gobyerno, hindi lang sa mga negosyo, pati sa mga tao, mga individuals. Because with the use of AI, we can actually get parang semi-process information about a certain thing, no? Hindi na lang parang re-research ka sa internet, kung hindi with AI makakapagbigay sa iyo ng kaalaman, no? Kasi pinoproseso na niya yung mga gusto mong malaman, no? Kasi nailagay na niya doon sa sistema niya yung mga inputs na kakailanganin mo sa yung decision making process, no? Whether this is yung personal, whether it's for business or whether it's for government. So sa amin po sa DICT, yun, sinusundan din namin, minomonitor namin yung nangyayari, and meron po mga pag-uusap related sa AI, hindi lang dito sa Pilipinas, no, maski po sa ibang bansa. And gusto rin natin na malaman kung ano mga nangyayari sa ibang bansa, no? Para yung mga pulisiya din natin at yung mga plano natin ay may align natin, no, doon sa mga best practices at ginagawa po sa ibang bansa. Yun po. Salamat.
Thank you very much, ASEC. And maybe hear from Mr. Earl Valencia.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. No? Are we ready? Are we ready as a country for AI? And I think our representative from the PIDS said that it's already happening. So how do we actually adapt to it? One thing kasi that we have a chance in the Philippines is that this AI revolution is new, right? So imagine na parang 20 years ago, social media, internet, maski parang medyo na-adapt natin, hindi natin really masyadong pinag-isipan. Ano kaya yung business na pwede natin gawin in the Philippines para tayo maging Facebook ng mundo? In fact, tayo naging consumers ng mga technologies, Friendster, MySpace, Facebook, but we actually did not invent it, right? But now we're given a second chance in the Philippines to actually build our brand of innovation in a technology that all over the world, everybody is figuring it out. Silicon Valley, from the US, China, Europe, right? Everybody is trying to figure it out. It's our chance to actually figure out what's our contribution to build our own new type of Facebook, but AI bent. No, I think for us, at least my interpretation and also maybe the NIC's thought is there are problems that AI can solve for us. Something related to agriculture, aquaculture, climate change, financial services, others like that. That to be honest, other countries are not using AI for, right? Maybe it's their second or third kasi hindi naman nagkakabagyo sa kanila, di ba? So why would they build an AI for climate change? Because wala naman bagyo doon. Why would they think about AI related to call centers? Kasi wala naman call centers sa kanila. We have a chance to actually build our AI story from the Philippines and export to the world. It's just that now we just have to figure out and rally as a country na we're given a second chance, right? We missed leadership in the digital social media revolution, right? We're consumers of those technology, right? Of e-commerce. How do we then become producers of technology in this next revolution? And I think that's the exciting part that we're going to the next 5-10 years with this new tool that's given to us, which is AI.
Thank you very much, Earl. What a lively and informative discussion we just had. Please help me in thanking our distinguished panel of speakers for their very insightful presentations. At maraming pong salamat din sa members, the ating mga kaibigan sa media for your very insightful questions. And we hope that you will help us spread the word about the Development Policy Research Month, importance of policy research, the importance of realizing that twin transition at kung ano po ang ginagawa ng ating government, ng ating mga LGUs at ng business sector para po ma-realize natin yung digitalization at itong green transition or otherwise called as the twin transition. At this point, I now call on our Vice President of PIDS, Dr. Marife Ballesteros, to officially close our event.
Thank you, Sheila, for that. To our member partners at the DPRM Steering Committee, friends from the media, and distinguished guests, thank you very much for joining us and actively participating in today's press conference. As I listen to the presentations and deliberations, I realize that there is plenty to reflect upon. And if this forum in any way enhances our thinking of considering green and digital and AI in addressing the challenges we are facing today, then this forum has achieved its objective. In today's deliberation, an overriding message that I think has resonated through the presentations and questions is the need to actively and simultaneously pursue digital and green transformation to have a better chance of realizing the goals for sustainable development. To actively pursue means we are part of the strategy. Our individual and collective efforts are important. At the heart of this twin transition is the government, which shall create the enabling environment to encourage innovations and technology adoption and harness their benefits, to ensure human skills development to complement this shift, and to strengthen social protection for the poor and marginalized sectors. I think it has been emphasized the need to strengthen government policy and the regulatory environment to enable the shift towards this green and digital. Businesses also stand to become more profitable and eco-friendly by striving to create a circular economy for all. Meanwhile, the academe, research, and training institutions can focus on developing green and digital skills while improving civic education around environment and digital responsibilities. Advances in technology, specifically artificial intelligence, have progressed significantly and have opened vast opportunities to pursue both green and digital in various sectors. While fears and risks about AI have caused apprehensions, it also led us to be thoughtful and rational in our approach to crafting policies to mitigate adverse impacts while taking advantage of its benefits. I think I like the way Mr. Valencia has mentioned it, that the Philippines should have its own AI story. So the DPRM is a month-long celebration, and the PIDS, together with our partners, have organized other events to further unpack this theme. So I would like to take this opportunity to invite you all to join us at the 9th Annual Public Policy Conference, or APPC, on September 19, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. at the AIM Conference Center in AIM Makati. The APPC is the main activity of the DPRM, and we will be featuring both international and local experts in digital transformation and green transition, who will showcase trends and best practices on this twin transition and offer evidence-based insights and perspectives on the future of work, on how we harness the benefits of artificial intelligence, and what actions are needed from the government, business sector, and the community to effectively implement going green and digital. Another event is the 9th Mindanao Policy Research Forum, which is happening on September 28th. This is both via Zoom. So both APPC and Mindanao Policy Forum will be live streamed on PIDS Facebook pages. The APPC is also is a hybrid event, so you can attend in person. So I would like to also mention that you may share the DPRM promotional videos, infographics, and related announcements on your website and social media pages. You may also organize activities relevant to the theme or policy research in your school or organization. For more details on how to participate in the DPRM, please visit the DPRM PIDS.gov.ph or the PIDS.gov.ph. I think this was flashed earlier at the start of the program. So once again, on behalf of the PIDS and DPRM Steering Committee, we are truly grateful for your cooperation and attendance. We greatly appreciate the support, especially from the media, in covering our activities. It is very important that the views expressed here are disseminated to a wider readership and audience. So muli, maraming salamat, and enjoy your lunch.
Thank you very much once again. We have lunch for everyone. And again, salamat po sa ating friends from the media, DPRM Steering Committee members, for your active participation. Hanggang sa muli.